I'm Jay Taylor. I want to welcome you to this special report on Goliath Resources. And this is a special report to enhance what you learned from my initial recommendation this past weekend in the newsletter. And I'm really pleased to have Dr. Quinton Hennigh with me today to help us understand a little better what the potential is for Goliath Resources. Goliath is trading in Canada under GOT as a symbol, and you can buy it down here in the States under GOTRF, as I have. Approximately 38 million shares. I believe that's the number more or less after a financing that the company's just done or is about to do. So it's got a very modest market cap, selling at, well, let's see, what I'm seeing on my screen now, around 30 cents, something like that, I believe, in US money. So giving it a market cap around $12 million, let's say, in US funds. So very low market cap. And I'm really pleased, as I say, to have Dr. Quinton Hennigh with me today. He has signed on as a technical advisor to the company, as he has a number of companies. And Dr. Hennigh is really, he really is sought after because he's had a great deal of success in finding substantial, outlining substantial precious metals deposits. So he's highly sought after. But before he signs on to companies, he's really looking for a couple of things. First of all, he wants to know if it's a project that has scale and if it's potentially economic. And then equally important is how good are the technical people? Because you can have the greatest deposit, you can greatest deposit in the world, but if you don't know how to explore it, not much good. And so he looks at just general managerial competence, including not just technical, but also the people that are required to raise the money efficiently and all of those things. So when he finds categories, companies that fit those categories, and he thinks it really has a good shot at being something special, he jumps aboard. And so that's the case with Goliath Resources. So thanks for joining me, Quinton.
Thank you, Jay.
You know, as I understand it, I just outlined the things that you need to see. So let's jump right into this company's project. It's the Golddigger project in the Golden Triangle, on the southern end of the Golden Triangle in British Columbia, a very prolific area for precious metals. So geologically, Quinton, what did you see there that convinced you this is a story you want to get involved with?
You know, it is part of the Golden Triangle. It's right down at the very, very southern tip of the Golden Triangle. Yeah. And it's kind of in a neighborhood that's somewhat unique with respect to other areas of the Golden Triangle, because most of what you find down in this part of the gold district is vein mineralization. Okay, so nearby you have Ascot, for example, the old Premier project, as well as some of their newer discoveries. But also nearby you have things like the Porter, Idaho deposit, which is part of Strike Point, very famous high-grade silver producer. And then there's others. Look, I could list them all, but in general, what I see in this area is a district scale play. And what caught my attention here was that that Goliath turned out some numbers late last year, I think around November, late November. They started publishing some very long channel samples of very impressive numbers. Now, they reported the numbers in gold equivalency, but truth be told, there's about as much silver value in this stuff as there is gold. So it's a really exciting story because you have this, bimetal system. There's a bit of base metal, but it's really inconsequential in terms of value. It's a gold silver story, and that's the way it should be thought. It resembles very, very strongly the other what are really high value vein deposits that have been mined in this area. So I'm excited. So basically a new discovery in a terrain that's really emerging as a world-class vein district.
Yeah, well, speaking of terrain, it is a rugged terrain, and going to the company's website, looking at you've actually had people, like professional mountain climbers or rock climbers that are taking samples. Obviously, this was an area, I think, that was under the ice until recently with
part of it was, yes.
Some of it was, and so a lot of it wasn't probably explored, plus it is not so easy to get to. What are the plans for the company? Because maybe just talk a little bit about what you know so far from those channel surfaces, channel samples from surface.
Certainly. Look, there's so they started prospecting this thing, and they traced this vein up and over a mountain, basically just straight up and then straight down the other side. And what makes it kind of unique is that the vein dips at about 45 or 50 degrees. It's a nice wide vein. You've got mineralization. In fact, I have a chunk of it here. You got very high grade sulfide gold silver mineralization like this in the core of the vein, but on either side there's significant widths of silicification that also holds appreciable gold and silver. So collectively, you got in aggregate several meters thickness, nice beefy kind of target. It's not just a little, little vein of a meter or something like this. It's a nice stout target. And they were able to trace this thing up and over the mountain and do channel samples wherever they could get opportunity. It was steep terrain, but the guys did a really good job cutting nice channel samples to get a very good impression of the true sense of this thing. All right, now where it goes up and over the mountain on the backside, very steep. They weren't able to get channels on the backside, but visibly you can see the vein go straight down the steep face there. Okay, so what makes this interesting is that from a drill, perspective of drilling this thing, you can actually put drill stations up on the hanging wall of the vein and literally just pick at it like this. Okay, so it should, in theory, be able to test the vein down dip for considerable ways in one season. Look, we won't necessarily get a resource out of it, but we'll be able to demonstrate to the market that this thing has the very good likelihood of being, say, maybe 1 to 2 million ounce gold equivalent on the first pass. I mean, that's a great outcome. Okay, so it's an exciting story. It's high grade. Look at the channel samples. You're seeing pretty consistent plus 10 gram gold equivalent grades the whole way up. Nice big thicknesses. This story is very exciting. I've worked with the team. We've developed a drill program. You can actually see a video of it on their website.
Can you give us some sense of the scale in terms of the vertical extent? I think it's quite impressive. If people go to the website and look at the deck there,
Yeah,
you can learn a lot about this project just by doing that. But can you give us some sense of the scale of this, Quinton, from what you know so far?
Sure thing. So from the valley floor on the south side, we'll call it, up to the top of the saddle where the vein goes across and over the backside, I think the total relief there is on the order of several hundred meters, probably 800 meters, something like that. And then along strike too, the thing already has well over a kilometer strike to it. Okay, so and then it's dipping back at about, again, 45, 50 degrees, something like that. So what does that mean? It means that right now, if you just map out that footprint, I mean, you do easily have enough potential tonnage in the targets in that target space to host a, say, 2 million ounce gold equivalent. Now, does that mean it's going to go down and stop? No. Look, in reality, there's an intrusion off to the west that is likely the culprit here. Okay, that's driving this system, and that vein is likely going to dip all the way down to that thing. And that really is the big upside here. I mean, what if this vein carries on down for another 2 or 3 kilometers until it gets to that intrusion? And what happens when it gets to the intrusion? I don't know. I mean, this could be a very exciting story. The Premier mine was one of the
very rich.
Oh my gosh, it was a wonderful mine. It operated during the low gold prices, but it still kicked out a pretty handsome gold margin. And this is the kind of prize people want. Okay, a very high grade, very potentially very lucrative type target.
And it's silver and gold. Can you give us some idea of the ratio of gold to silver?
So
not in price, but in terms of ounces.
Yeah, sure. Look, in terms of ounces, when you see the gold equivalent grade, roughly like I said, about half and half of the value is silver versus gold. Now, obviously, the metal prices move, so that'll change. But in terms of real grade, we're looking at a few hundred grams silver, maybe anywhere from in the hundreds, 100x gram up to 300x gram silver is pretty typical. And then the gold grades are usually in the say 5 to 10, maybe up to 15 gram range. Okay, but when you convert that silver, obviously the ratio right now, I think it's even 66 or something to 1. It's crazy. It's changed so dramatically. It's hard to keep track, but when you convert that silver, dollar wise into gold, obviously it's an appreciable amount of value, roughly 50-50 right at the moment.
Yeah, well, silver is looking very strong now, and in bull markets, it generally outperforms gold, so it's a good upside to have.
Yes,
For sure, if you believe as I do that we're in a protracted bull market. Okay, well, Quinton, technically, who are the people that you're working with and you're advising?
it's a funny company because it's quite small. It's you got Roger Rosmus, who's the CEO, and who really approached us, or who we connected with first after those results came back. I wanted to talk about this, and what he did is he put me in touch with his geologists. These are the young lads who actually went up that mountain. They mapped the thing. They did the channel samples. They're just the coolest young geologists you can imagine. Okay, so Manuel and Spencer, these two guys are young, and they're basically full of piss and vinegar, if you will.
Yeah.
It's what you need for a project like this, and then they're supported by their logistics manager, Bill, who's able to which is really important, Jay. I mean, don't underestimate, when you operate in this kind of environment, you need good logistics. Okay, so
Sure.
he's able to round up the support they need to undertake a program. So basically, when I started talking with them, that's what I had to come to grips with was, can these guys pull off this drill program? Can they actually get this work done? And I was convinced. Okay, so they're a good team. I think they'll do well next summer. It will be an incredibly busy season in the Golden Triangle next summer. I can tell you, I can see it coming a mile away. But I think we've got things lined up, teed up to undertake this planned drill program. And that was one of the keys, Jay. Because they came out with this news in November, and you remember the market was a bit soft, I could kind of see this coming. So first of all, I wanted to get them cashed up, but I also wanted them to go ahead and commit to getting the drill ready. I said, guys, can you make sure to lock in what you need for next season? And they said yes. So they set about, because they had the commitment for money, they set about securing everything they need. Boom, it should be a very good story for this year. We're ahead in the queue. Let's put it that way.
Very good. And what timing in terms of getting in there? I know it's probably very, very difficult. You probably have to wait for the spring at the earliest.
Look, it's June is probably when you can start drilling lower on the hill. Now, some years the snow doesn't melt so well up on the top. Okay, so it'll be interesting to see how it goes this year. I watch the weather in the Golden Triangle almost religiously. It sounds crazy, but I'm helping Escape, for example. And,
sure.
So now I'm starting to, pay a lot of attention. So I got Windy on my app or my phone, and it's like, so I'm keeping track of the snow. It's a pretty snowy year. Okay, I'm not going to pretend there's a fair bit of snow. What you need to see is the warm weather show up early, like May, and you need to see that aggressive melting in June. What they'll probably do is start drilling the lower stations, work their way up the mountain over the summer. But if they can get in there and start drilling, say mid to late June, they should have about a window up until about early to mid October, which should allow them to get the program that we've laid out completed.
And how many meters, or more or less, how many holes?
Look, people are welcome to go to the website. I don't actually have the numbers memorized here, but I can tell you this: we have a series of holes, probably on the order of 10 to 15 holes in the shallow environment. In other words, where the vein just enters the surface, we're going to step back and drill holes, 50 to 80 meters down dip from the outcrop. And then we have a series of holes where we step back further, and then we actually test considerably further down dip. These down dip holes will test, upwards of 200 or 300 meters down dip. And that's what I mean, is that if we have good intersects up here, and then we have a few good intersections down here, it's not going to take a lot of brain cells to see that the target's panning out. So by the end of the season, I hope to demonstrate that polygon, that envelope of mineralization that we've kind of outlined as a target, is indeed mineralized.
In continuous, yeah, at least to an extent. So.
It's on the order of 4,000 or 5,000 meters of drilling, if memory serves.
Okay, all right, very good. Well, I mean, it's early, but I think this is a news story, and people who are excited about these high grade projects that Dr. Hennigh gets involved with, folks, you're going to want to pay some attention to this one, I think. And yeah, now might be a really good time because the share price hasn't really popped yet. But I think with some good news, it's likely to. And Dr. Hennigh's involvement.
A market cap of 12 million US.
Yeah.
And in this market,
yeah,
if we hit the ground next summer and these guys start hitting on all cylinders,
yeah,
this could be a very exciting story.
Very exciting story. I'm believing it will be, which is why I've added to my letter. And I would like to just remind my subscribers that, of course, we'll be keeping up with this story and all the others that are in my letter. And also, I would like to remind people they can go to miningstocks.com for the links to all the important news that of the companies that I follow on my newsletter. Quinton, I want to thank you so much for taking the time. This is another exciting Quinton Hennigh story. I want to really thank you for sharing it with us. It's very exciting.
Certainly, Jay, anytime.
All right. Well, that's it for now, folks. Until the next report. So long and all the best to all of you. Bye for now.